we're all three on slightly different timelines. This is the reality of the digital world. We've already tested this in several previous shows. There is no real way to figure out how to get the sequence of 3, 2, 1, let's go in perfect sequence. So at the end of the day, just like Skippo has said, we got to go for it, and whatever happens, happens. 3, 2, 1. Let's go! Yo,
We back.
Oh, what is up? I haven't been this tanked in the beginning of a show in a very long time. I'm your host, Troy Tittlemeyer, for the PBE Podcast, and I'm joined by none other than, and always, forever, with Skips, the Skips Scipione. Sir, what is the latest, man? What's the greatest? How's the Rona in California? What's going on, man?
Dude, they just are about to shut everything down again. It's kind of crazy. And then how they divided up the counties is the other really weird thing.
Divided up counties?
Yeah, so they divided California into 4 distinct sections. So they have like a Northern California, Southern California, Central Valley, and then kind of like the Bay Area.
What?
Yeah, so what they included in Southern California, though, blows my mind. So they included all the way up to San Luis Obispo.
What?
Yeah, so they included that in Southern California, and then they included it all the way from Inyo County to Mono County. So like Levining, Mammoth, that whole area is considered Southern California.
What?
And so they're going under the same regs as, I don't know, dude. Newsom is.
Wait a minute.
So I don't want to get political, but it's weird. It's weird.
So what's Bakersfield in?
Bakersfield is in the Central Valley. I'm pretty sure that's where they have it.
Big scoop in the middle.
Yeah, the San Joaquin. Yeah, that's what they have it under. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, don't quote me on that. I mean, every day is just something new.
Ay, dude. I mean, who creates the?
Clearly, some intern that does not really care about their job.
Speaking about interns that do care about their job, Dylan Morton, man, you are joining the show. Hello, man.
What's up?
Dude, where are you coming from right now? First of all, Oklahoma?
Oh, yeah, Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City, no shit.
Yes, sir.
Right on. Is that where OSU is at?
It's in Stillwater, right?
Yeah, OSU is in Stillwater, about 45 minutes northeast. Northeast.
Northeast, yeah. Okay, so you're in Oklahoma City. You are a graduate student with OSU.
Yep.
And you are a fan of the PBE Podcast.
The number one fan, some would say.
Oh, he's calling it. I love it. Calling it out. The number one fan of the PBE Podcast, man. Well, listen, I absolutely enjoyed getting to know you more, sir. I really did, man. To the bottom of my core, I feel like you are a geoscientist. You are trying to do your job and your responsibility as a geoscientist to learn as much as possible to help businesses become successful, man. And we're a small niche of people. It's just like Skips talks about in this show, is we are a small group of geoscientists that actually have this passion and the curiosity and the ability, or the energy to challenge ourselves intellectually and pull out the best and the newest and the right things to do for our futures, man. I've definitely become a fan of yours. Skippo, what do you think, man? How was this show?
Dude, this was an awesome show. I mean, it's been laid back. It's been a nice kind of change in pace for sure. And just kind of talking rocks again and just kind of like reminiscing about some other shows that we've had and, kind of where the future is going to go. And MidCon IBA winners. We're gonna throw that out there.
Are we making that prediction?
I'm gonna make that prediction right now. I'm gonna making it happen
go.
right now. Don't let me down. I'm putting money on this.
I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
I'm going to reach out to DraftKings, and I'm going to try to figure out if we can get the IBA, if we can get all IBA teams on DraftKings. Can you imagine? Can we get enough people? Why wouldn't we? What else are these fucking geologists and engineers and all these people in the industry doing with their time? What else are you doing with your time? We have the ability to bet. Let's make a bet. Who's going to win the IBA this year? I have a good feeling. I support Skips's decision. I haven't made mine yet, but I support that OSU is going to be a serious contender in the IBA this year. Tell me about what section is that? Or who?
It's Midcon.
Yeah, Midcon.
So who
So
else?
that's like Wichita. What is it? OU, Oklahoma State, Kansas State,
Kansas for sure.
and then I'm trying to remember who else was in that division. But those are the ones I remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, same.
Same.
Arkansas, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
Arkansas?
it's a loaded region though. That's for sure.
I think Arkansas is for sure because they're pretty heavy contenders as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Damn. But LSU is not.
No, LSU's in the Gulf, so they're like the Raging Cajuns. So University of Louisiana Lafayette, University of Houston,
Right.
like those guys. Yeah, I think A&M is in that one.
And Midland or UTPB was in the southwest section.
Yeah.
So that's UTEP was our biggest competitor, right?
Yeah, UTEP and Texas Tech. Yeah.
So in your opinion, Dylan, your biggest competition to get out of the regionals of IBA in the mid-con section is going to be what, Kansas or OU? Who are you thinking?
OU has done pretty good in the past as well, but if I'm remembering correctly, Arkansas is usually up there as well. So OU and Arkansas Tech, I would say.
Arkansas Tech, is that the Razorbacks or no? Arkansas Tech is something.
No, that's University of Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah. So Arkansas Tech, maybe Arkansas, I can't remember. But yeah, definitely OU and Arkansas in general.
Nice. Okay. Well, that's exciting, man. That's have a visitor. Stan Keith just walked in, so my psychology has changed from where we were to something new. And I'm gonna figure out how to splice this into the show. But listen, we have a good show, man. We have an exciting show as you are a graduate student at OSU that is pushing forward as a geoscientist, trying to figure out what are you going to do 3 semesters from now or 4 semesters from now as a master's graduate student in geoscience. What are you going to do in the real world? What are you going to do practically to make money, to build a career? And that's what we talk about in this show. You're talking about these things, carbon sequestration. You're talking about oil and gas, mining. You're talking about all kinds of other options that we have as geoscientists. We are a versatile group. Even being in Oklahoma, which is heavily oil and gas, you have many, many options, sir. And you're smart. You're effective. You are articulate. I enjoyed this show. And Skippo, what do we say when we start these things? This is the conception part of the PBE podcast with Dylan Morton, Skippo. We're diving in. We're getting to know each other, man. It's literally a little bit of a digital happy hour. I got this. Let's share with what we're talking. I got the beer. I got the pub beer. Straight out of
luxurious.
I got my beer salt. Dylan, what are you sipping on?
I got a nice Corona right here.
And the koozie, what's the koozie say?
Reagan Smith Energy Solutions.
Reagan Smith.
Yeah, it was my previous employer.
And Skippo, what are you sipping on?
Dude, I'm not catching up with you guys yet because it's still 1 o'clock California time, but I'm drinking some of the most quality of the Nestle Pure Life water.
Oh, no, it's Nestle?
Dude, yeah. I just realized it now.
I don't trust them. No, I'm just kidding. Where's that water even come from? It's probably Northern California or something.
Yeah, probably. Or probably out of someone's faucet that they just ran through a Brita.
Right.
All right, man. You might be able to catch up during the drill down segment of the show. But Dylan, you know, one thing that's really interesting to me is the fact that you have listened to a ton of the PBE podcast, man. And first of all, just thanks, dude. Thanks, and it's great to hear. And the post you made, man. Honestly, I thank you so much for just saying, you know, the positive things and sharing that.
Man, no problem. I tell pretty much all my geologist friends about the podcast, and I have a few friends that, you know, already listen to it, but I just love what you guys do. You know, you always bring the energy. I have to say, I learn something new every single time I listen to a podcast.
Come on.
And that's just that just blows my mind. Some of the things I've learned just from you guys and the guests that you guys have had on.
Dude, that when it all started, it all began. Let's go back. Let's take it back, Skippo. Let's rock it back with Dylan. And what I really want to do, and I'm going to pull up the website. We're going to start from the very beginning, and I'm just going to kind of slowly scroll, and then and we'll just kind of wrap about these shows, the shows we've done, and what dropped out for you, or a show that popped out, and you're like, dude, I really like that one for this reason, or whatever. Let's just have some fun with the history of PBE. We are releasing the 65th show this weekend with Dr. Scott Tinker, dude, from the BEG. We
Dude's
get
incredible.
Great. Oh, dude, we get into some amazing stuff. He's all charged up talking about geology again.
That's
good.
Another thing I was going to say. It just, it got me excited for geology again, because after my undergrad and working for a couple years, I just lost some of that steam, and listening to you guys, you just get charged up right away.
That's the goal, man. That's why we're geologists, right? You want to keep learning. You get dumped in your undergrad. You're basically shot out of a cannon, right? You're given so much information to process, but you don't really have the time to really sit back and evaluate and like hone in those skills, right? You have field camp, and then sometimes you get it in work, but making sure you stay active and making sure we're always learning. That's the only way we're going to become better at this. I mean, at the end of the day.
Yeah, dude.
So I'm stoked that you see it that way.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Well, man, so I just got off the phone with DH, dude. Right before this.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Oh, snap.
Dr. Hurst, our geochemist professor from undergrad, and he kind of reiterated the story that the geology department's going away, man. It's going to be replaced with environmental. It's really focused on kind of big data science, and the structure, the SED strat, the chemistry. It's all going away, Skippo. I mean, and you're talking about, Dylan coming out of the master's degree and now being ready to take on the world and apply this knowledge to a new problem and figure shit out, which is what we love to do. It's geologists are curious to figure things out using data and models and all that stuff. But, dude, so Dr. Bilodeau, who raked us through the coals happily in undergrad, making sure that we actually really, comprehended what we were talking about, what structure was trying to tell us, and how we can evaluate something like the Rainbow Basin and make sense of the geologic history, the structure history. So where I'm going with that, though, dude, is how could California Lutheran University have the courage and the balls to say we got to remove geology with this simple fact? Dr. Bilodeau took time and time again, class after class, to Rainbow Basin to do structural geology as a PhD professor teaching undergrad structural geology, and every year he learned something new. Are you kidding me? How do you get rid of that subject? How do you get rid of the subject that keeps bringing something new? What the fuck? I'm sorry, it's the pub beer that's already getting me excited. It's frustrating, dude. It doesn't make any logical sense.
Yeah, man. I had a conversation with DH a couple of weeks ago, and he was just as perplexed as I was. They're just dumbing down the program into this environmental science because, there's this big focus on big data, GIS, and, you don't need those fundamentals anymore, according to them. And it's like, no, it's the exact opposite. Yeah. Right? You're forcing yourself to, find solutions using big data. When the solutions are there in front of you, if you have the tools and that set of knowledge to approach that problem in the first place, you don't need all the data in the world. You just need to have a good geologic background to approach these problems. So, yeah.
Yeah, dude, I love the way you said that. If anything, all this data, this overwhelming data is telling us there's something wrong with the fundamentals maybe. Why do we need this overwhelming amount of data to make the right decision? Wait a minute. What's going on here? We have enough data. We need to apply the right models and get the right minds to be working on this problem. Those are facts, Skippo. I love the way you said that. Dylan, what do you got, man? What happened at graduate?
That's just sad. I feel like I was kind of in my undergrad. I was in the transition almost, because my girlfriend's dad, he's a geologist, and he'll quiz me all the time, And
That's
I just
awesome.
feel like I don't have that like structure. I feel like our department overall lacked in the amount of structure we got taught in structural geology. And there's just, you get out and you're told you want to be an overall geologist, like, which is something you guys preach about all the time. But in school, like you talk about with academia, it's just all so specific. And now it's going towards big data and getting away from the basics. And I feel like I saw that firsthand. And going into the real world, it scares me because I want to know those things.
It's up to us, man. It's up to us. Nobody has it figured out, and it's not built. There isn't a perfect place to go to become the most experienced and widespread and universal geologist. It doesn't exist, man. So you got to take your own curiosity and you got to expand. You got to hit the wall of your intellectual capabilities and keep fighting against that. Defend your innocence. I mean, there's so much going on today. And as this year finishes up and wraps up, there's a lot of material out there. But man, so you go through undergrad, you're in graduate degree, and so how did that develop? Did you go to OSU for both of those things?
Yes. So I'm in my first year of graduate school, first semester.
Nice.
Did my undergrad at OSU as well. Did an internship my last semester of undergrad, and which led into a full-time job. So that summer is when I did field camp. So that was, 6-8 weeks when did field camp in Canyon City, Colorado.
Whoa.
You guys ever been there?
No.
I've been to Canyon City, but I want to say isn't there there's something to do with gold and some mining going on in this part?
Yeah, mining, and Royal Gorge is out there. They have a lot of mining operations. I can't think off the top of my head what's one of the main things that they mine, but there's the Jurassic Morrison Formation, lots of critters and fossils, all that. So after field camp, I started full-time at Reagan Smith Energy Solutions in the city, moved from Stillwater to the city, and I was working there about a year, and then the oil crash hit in March, right? Early March, I think.
Yeah.
So lasted for a while. Thought I was going to make it through. About mid-May, got let go. So got the call from a very nice call from one of my undergraduate teachers, and he knew that I was interested in grad school and said that there was a guy willing to sponsor me. So signed up and got in.
Dude.
Nice. Congratulations on that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's unfortunate that obviously the employment thing happened, right? Because that's never ideal. But I mean, that seems like in the grand scheme of things, a smooth transition.
No, it very much was. And I was super grateful for it because, I obviously wanted to go back to grad school, but I was just burnt out. I wanted to make some money. So I think it worked out perfectly. I'm happy where I'm at.
Yeah, no, dude. And it sounds like I can already tell, obviously, somebody's sponsoring you and the undergrad professor is saying, Dylan got a program here. Like, you've left an impact on these people for a reason, and it's obviously because you do good work and you're reliable and you're a quality guy. I could say that without even my first beer drank. All right, I could say that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I was just thinking outside the box because this is kind of an outside the box show. I was thinking that, the reality of what's to come from all of the things that we've experienced this year, something I read and what people are talking about is that, there could be a lot of closing of schools. There could be a lot of closing of these in between smaller universities that are trying to just kind of get folks together. And then the major universities might have a real chance to keep it really going. So that's a negative thought, and it might not be a reality. We might not see that. But if it does happen, we were just talking about how geology program is exciting because there's always something new. There's the fundamentals can always be taught and always be progressed. Is it a time that if that does start happening, is it a time for us to really integrate and find the best structure from one school and the best carbonates from one school and then combine, you know what I mean? And create something new, some kind of collective for how this is going to go. I don't know. It's just a random thought I had.
No, yeah, that's super interesting. I'd be interested to see how it plays out. we've moved to fully online. It was interesting. We were supposed to be in person this whole semester, and then after break, Thanksgiving break, we moved into fully online. And I guess next semester we're going to be in person as well. But the thing is, they now have to record every lecture that they do, just in case if someone, has corona or doesn't want to come, they can just tune in via, something like this. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I've also been seeing, you're talking about the smaller universities. I live right next to a community college, and it seems like now, more than ever, they're pushing for people to go back to school, because everyone's, unemployed for the most part.
Yeah.
And they're, advertising out the wazoo to try to get people, to come spend their money, get their next degree or finish their current degree.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, I've seen that around here too. You just hear like, hey, I got a bunch of extra time on my hands. Why not go back and either finish this degree or start this other degree that I've always been interested in, right? But so as your first year at OSU, because I've known a couple of people that have come from that program, and they've all been really what?
The Cowboys.
The Cowboys,
yes,
yeah.
Sir.
And I know they've been really heavy in the carbonates. So is that kind of what you're aiming for in your thesis? Or are you still like looking and trying to find something, or?
Well, I have a start, and that I'm not going to be looking at carbonates necessarily, but I'm still open to changing my thesis topic because all I've been doing is reading theses. But I'm looking at the Cottage Grove sandstone in the Anadarko, and I know the carbonate people very well. Dr. Mike Grammer, he's a great dude.
Dr. Grammer is, oh my God, one of the best freaking geologists I've ever met.
He's so smart.
Yeah.
But my girlfriend, actually, she did an undergraduate project for him, and she made a poster, and it could have been a whole thesis in itself. But the carbonate group at OSU, such a great group. But right now I'm not looking at carbonates. So
yeah,
definitely open to different things though.
I would be interested in asking Grammer, what's he doing with mud volcanism? Is he doing anything with mud volcanism? And especially, I would be interested in hydrothermal dolomites.
Yeah.
He has dabbled into, and we've talked face-to-face about some of the stuff he's doing with hydrothermal.
Yeah, we got into the weeds with him. What was that, at ACE, I think?
It was one of those last events, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, his perspective on hydrothermal dolomite, especially on the Cherokee platform, was... I mean, it was spot on. It was exactly what we were seeing in one of the assets we were looking at. So, yeah, Dr. Grammer is definitely ahead of the curve when it comes to hydrothermal alteration on limestone and how it affects these different reservoirs. So, yeah, he's a good guy to have in your pocket. I'd keep him. Yeah. I know he's a carbonate guy, but I'd try to get him on your committee for sure.
No, definitely. And he's on sabbatical this semester. And with everything going on, I haven't really seen much of anyone from the department. Yeah. But no, he's definitely in my back pocket for sure. I've had him for Sed Strat classes, and I've always enjoyed, learning from him just in general.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. You mentioned your girlfriend. She's a geologist, huh?
Yeah, she is.
What's her name?
Cheyenne. Cheyenne's her name.
She works at a company, or she's just going to school?
She actually is doing earring business right now. She makes clay earrings.
What?
And she does awesome with it. So right now,
what's the website? How do we do this? What do we do?
Yeah, we'll throw a plug in. What's the plug?
So
shameless plug.
The Wildflower Co. is her name, and she makes clay earrings, all kinds of stuff. She makes crew necks, shirts. She sells all kinds of stuff. She does, pop-up shops around here in the city and stuff. So she's doing really good. And, maybe later on she'll go back and get her master's degree, but right now she's, loving that creative outlet. So
yeah, definitely a change from, all the analytical approach to be a little bit more creative for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And let's be honest, any undergraduate geologist right now that's not doing something creative like that, they're probably not making money as a geologist. That's just the reality of it. It's very tough right now for geoscience majors to get in and do things. So it's an inspirational, go start making some jewelry, make t-shirts, get out there and do something like this. And then all of a sudden you develop a whole nother passion, man. That's cool. Right on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right
So that's
on.
been awesome. I don't mean to bring things down, but yeah, it's so hard right now. I saw how some of the folks that were at Exxon got laid off the other day, and it just sucks, man. Concho getting folded up. There's a lot of OSU people there, and just a lot of geoscientists in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't stayed up on the up and up on exactly how that's going. Concho got bought out by ConocoPhillips, right?
Yeah.
That's an interesting buy because Concho sold their platform, money maker in my opinion, to somebody else before that, and they had a big, heavy, unconventional assets, and then that's now bought by ConocoPhillips. So that'll be interesting to see how that develops, see what ConocoPhillips does with all that data.
Yeah, because I was going to say they have some prime acreage. I mean, some of it is fringe in the Midland Basin, but in the Delaware side, they got some really good stuff.
Yeah, I was actually reading up on it because a couple months ago, Concho came and did interviews at OSU, and I thankfully got selected to do an interview with him, but never amounted to anything. So I don't know if it had something to do with them getting folded up with Conoco, or they just didn't want me. But yeah, it's definitely it's an interesting time.
I definitely say there are probably some external factors that came into it. It wasn't just a you thing. But yeah, that's interesting though, because I don't know what does Conoco. I know Conoco has some stuff in the Permian, but not a lot, if I remember right.
I don't know.
I have no idea on that one.
ConocoPhillips Permian Basin. I don't even know where to go for that. We could probably bring up TGS Geo News and do Google some things, but that's spinning us off. Let's talk about the website. Let's go through some old PBE podcast shows and the conception of this thing. Get where you were kind of getting captivated by. I brought back the Icon Live t-shirt. Where's my logo? There it is. I'm playing off the TV, so it's kind of weird. Bang, brought that back from Urtech and from SEG. So those shows are interesting, man. That was very, very unique for us to sit down with people that we would never been able to sit down with before, or in Midland, right? So first opinion of the website. This is a real live feedback. The only person that I know that's actually given feedback. When you go to PBE.com, is this as good as it gets?
Dude, I love the layout. You and Skip's right on the front, right there, right in the middle.
Look at Skip. What was he thinking right there? Like, if you could put a caption to that, I don't know what it would be.
It was a long day.
Yeah.
I can tell you what I was thinking.
Some people have reached out and said, I'm looking for opportunity. And we developed this professional tab, and people are there that lay out what they have done and what they're working on. Publications, this is one I just did kind of wild as I had this epiphany about how business and technology are related in a business, technology, and science. They're all related, and it's really interesting when you think about how the development of business actually works. And I related it back to Darwinism versus punctuated equilibrium, and the idea of that. It's a pretty good little read. And then our conventions, man, and then the live events. Are you registered for the PBE podcast?
Yes, sir, I am.
Yeah, Dylan.
Let's go. Let's go.
I don't know. When I first I had obviously followed you guys for a while, but I want to say it was about less than a year ago when I started to really dive deep into PBE, and I signed up, and then I started just listening to the podcast relentlessly, like almost every day. And because I liked them so much, I was learning so much from them, and all the information was, uncomparable to anything else I've really ever heard. So,
wow.
But yeah, I checked out the website. I thought a quick comment on the page where you have, people looking for opportunities. I thought that was super cool. I've never seen that before. It's like, man, that's prime time.
Yeah.
But,
Man,
Hey, I mean, as a community, right? It's our responsibility to help each other out, especially people who are hungry and they want to work. It just makes sense. It just makes sense
Definitely.
because people have done it for us. It's our responsibility to do it for others, and then hopefully their responsibility, that continues on and continues on. Because I mean, geologists in general, I mean, we're such a tight group of individuals. I mean, not too many people are like, "Hey, I'm going to dedicate 6 years to studying rocks."
yeah,
Yeah.
And learning more
That's-
about this planet. So it's, yeah, if there's someone who's hungry and someone who, we can help out, we're going to help them out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
what'd you think of the Mars presentation we threw out there? Did you watch that Mars one?
I tuned in. I think I tuned into it was live, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I tuned into, I did tune into that.
Nice.
It was super informative, I haven't really studied anything about Mars, so I learned a lot from that as well. Super interesting to hear, Stan's take on everything. Dude's super smart, dude. Just blew my mind, honestly,
It's
Yeah.
daily.
Had me
for me.
Googling stuff and
Had me Googling shit. That's where I made a post that kind of had some decent likes, and I said, if you can Google it, or no, if you can't Google it, it's probably true. And that came because fucking Stan. I sit across from this guy, and I'm trying to understand all this science, and he's throwing stuff out there, and I try to Google it, and it's like, he can't answer some shit that he's talking about. I'm like, what is that? That's so it's an interesting little take on that. Anyway, so cool, man. Yeah, we threw out some live events. We definitely want to bring those back because we set out for 2020 to ultimately create live events that are in person, similar to like SCG or ERTEC, but obviously smaller scale. PBE Podcast was going to team up with these companies. There was a lot of excitement around the podcast. There was a lot of excitement about delivering this information and delivering people's services and tools and technology. Like it's a wonderful platform to really try to bring some value and not waste time just kind of joking around and not really talking about much. So we really wanted to do that, and there was a lot of excitement. We did our only live event in Midland at the end of 2019, had an absolute torrential downpour of rain. It was literally like 4 feet of water outside the door. And people still showed up. We had like 30, 40 people still roll in. Free food and beer because of biota. You remember that, Skippo?
Oh, man, that was a great night. Dude. I wish we could do more of those because, I mean, in reality, that's where, like we were talking about, that's where ideas are shared, properly, right? Not during these, 20-minute presentations, 5 minutes of questions. It's, a 20-minute presentation and then an hour of questions. Like that's when, solutions are found, not, you scrambling to jot down notes. And by the time the session's over and you can ask the questions you want, you forgot about the talk.
Yep.
But
we brought some controversy. We brought in Stan himself in December and said, hey, man, he's got some different ways of thinking about some things. And when people are arguing and people are saying, nah, fuck that, you're out to lunch.
Yeah.
That's when shit's actually being discovered. That's when things are actually getting moved forward. It's in disagreement that we can make the most progress. If we're all standing around and laughing at each other's jokes and saying how great everybody's doing, and nobody has anything controversial about any of these things, and we're not really talking about something that's exciting people to the point of saying, no, I think you're wrong. And you're like, oh, you do? Let's talk about it. Let's lay out the data. Let's debate and let's drag it out. I thought that's exactly what happened at the end of that.
Oh, yeah.
By the way. And it was fun, man. And we're still all friends. We're still all moving forward. It was fun. It was educational. It was exciting. And we were done. It was great. But we can't do that. Now we have to do this.
Yeah, now we can't do that anymore. Yeah, especially now.
And now these live events are digital, and we do our best with trying to keep them entertaining and engaging, and there's still definitely some companies out there, man, that are like, hey, 2021's looking good. We want to get out there. We want to, team up and keep this going. It's because of people like you. you're a real life geoscientist trying to figure things out and moving forward and a good guy. And you're saying, man, I enjoy listening to the podcast because there's good information, and we enjoy making them because we're learning on the fly, man. And we're comfortable enough to do it live.
You guys like to have fun with it too.
Yeah, man. Yes. So episode 0, Skip, look at Skip's mustache.
Dude.
Yeah. Wait, where were we? Are we on just the podcast page? Oh, there it is. Oh, good God. That thing was disgusting.
I had some hair left as I was losing it.
Dude, that's before you committed to the full Joe Rogan.
Oh man. And then, just like you said, Dylan, we had some great guests that were local legends and local professionals that were on the front lines of innovation, the front lines of figuring this stuff out, and they were willing to come on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, Dave Cannon, episode 1, are you kidding me? That right there blew my mind. But I want to throw this in. I had I can't remember what it was with. I think it was GSA. I was going to do a resume workshop with Dave Cannon, one-on-one, and he backed out at the last minute.
Oh man. He's
a busy man. Was this GSA last year, or was this 2 years ago?
This year.
Wow.
Oh snap. I saw when is GSA?
It was like I want to say October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that all digital this year?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. I figured, but I mean, it would be some geologist that would try to pull something off.
But yeah, no, I mean, no shade on Dave. I just was excited to get to talk to him one-on-one and get his opinions.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I got to work with him on the West Texas Geological Society. We did 5th grade geoscience for a day, and I ran that program for like 3 years or whatever. I helped run it. WTGS already had it established for like 15 years or whatever. But we upgraded the presentation for the first time, and it was me and Dave that teamed up. And it was really Dave that, really put forward this, a new way to deliver the kind of the same old information. But it was very fascinating, man. And working with that dude and becoming friends with him, man, that was incredible. Incredible. The guy is something else. He's on another level, and and he's a good dude. And now I noticed he did something with Penn State. Obviously, he's a Nittany Tiger. Is that what they're called?
Lion. Nittany Lion.
Lion. Sorry, Dave. Anyway, but it was something along these lines. He's working with undergrads and graduate students about, getting prepared and making that transition into the, the real world, the experience, the business world. And that's, that's why this symposium exists. Utpb Geoscience Symposium, which we did a show on. Skips was presenting. Skips is obviously a legend at the school, as he basically won the IBA competition for UTPB, and he did a great thesis, a lot of good things at UTPB. So that was a cool show, just talking about that and the symposium that's really focused on how you make this transition to the business world, to get a job, and staying focused on the front lines of things that really bring value to the companies. And so that was cool. Ronco and Adam, dude, that was the first, this is just completely loose in the studio.
And we have to edit this show down to 30 minutes from 3 hours.
I was going to say that came to mind whenever you're talking about, arguing it out, There was a lot of, it seemed like there was not arguing on that show, but just Ronco, man. he has his opinions.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We brought the campfire to the show for sure.
Yeah.
And you're right. Skippo's absolutely right. We had to look at the studio engineer and say, dude, I don't think we're going to cut it in 2 hours. He's like, I'm willing to stay for another hour. We paid for another hour, and we didn't use any of it.
It's just all stored away somewhere. So does OSU, do they have their own geoscience symposium?
So something that I think would be along the lines of what you're talking about here is we have this thing called Tech Fest, and it's basically we bring in a bunch of companies, oil and gas companies. Now I think they're talking about including environmental companies. They come in and everyone presents their research. You have posters all around. We have this on campus. We have this place that's called the ConocoPhillips Alumni Center. big, nice center. We have a dinner, and we have a keynote speaker. I think this year it's going to be Rick Fritz, the president of AAPG. I don't know what platform we're going to use, but yeah, that's usually it's obviously in person. We have a dinner. All these companies come together, view the research, and hand out business cards and whatnot.
Yeah. Those moments are gold, man. That's where you meet people, you shake hands, and that's where you begin to build that network. Yeah. I mean, never take it for, and like, I know I was super shy when I like started, but then like, you just got to be like, hey, you just got to go up to this person. Worst case scenario, they say they're busy and you walk away. Right. But for the most part, 99.9% of people are like, oh yeah, come on in. Like, tell me about yourself.
That's true. But that's not it's true what you said, but it's not exactly true what you said. Worst case scenario, you meet Ronco the first day.
And you just get talked down to for like a solid hour and a half.
Is that when you met him at the bar or whatever?
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, it was an hour of him just basically telling me that like I didn't have enough to like make it out here. So which I appreciated. It fired me up.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Some people can metabolize that and recycle it into motivation. Some people don't quite have the skin for that. And it happens. So, and then we go to Ace. That was cool. Brett Dixon, man, that was a really interesting show to bring on somebody that had that worldwide experience. And he's very articulate, and it was good, man. Lev Vernick came on talking about Kerogen and how they're mapping this thing, how they see it in seismic data. They're like, no, that's a seismic response that's telling us you have high TOC, you have high Kerogen in this system. Yeah. And then their idea of, all right, if you have high Kerogen and porosity, so if you can make a porosity map and a high Kerogen map, and you overlap those maps, and where you meet, right, when those two blobs come together and make a new color, that seems to have some interesting results.
Yeah. Some high-level rock physics, definitely out of my pay grade, but yeah, some phenomenal stuff from Lev, especially his story about, I mean, totally off the Kerogen subject, but him talking about drilling, being a part of that team that drilled the deepest well.
Right,
like, and core and that whole thing. I mean, a 5-story library of core from one well.
Freaking igneous rocks, basically.
Yeah. And basically having their entire hypothesis flipped. Like, that was the other crazy thing.
Dude, amazing experience for him, and just a great guy. Rebecca Dodge came in and told us, hey, the surface shows us a ton of what's potentially going on in the subsurface, and that was a cool show. Stoney, man, I mean, going back and
dog.
Steve
dog.
Jumper. Oh man, Aaron Close with the database and big data stuff. Ryan West, completions engineer. Any of those that drop out for you, Dylan?
So obviously the Steve Jumper episode. I mean, they're all good in their own regard. That's the awesome thing. Aaron Close, he just blew my mind, with pretty much everything he said. So.
Yep. And then, dude, this is it, man. This is when we made our first Fable attempt of going live shows, going to these events, sitting at this booth. The cartoon of what the booth looked like. I was like, oh, this is going to be like lights and a stage. And we show up and it's like the intern's desk with PBE logos on it. But at the end of the day, they allowed us to put our equipment in there. We finagled it in. We brought our studio engineer, and we got to sit down with Dr. Susan Nash, for example, legendary AAPG associate, and everything else she does as just an interviewer and a PhD. She's really, really bright, really great questions. That was cool. Any of these shows from Urtech that stand out? Well, that's Isaac. Let's go. Oh, I see what we did there. Yeah, this is us just not knowing what we're doing.
Yeah, definitely Lev. I mean, he always does, but he just has such a wealth of knowledge, and like you were talking about the deepest well they drilled, I had to go Google about that because that blew my mind. I had never heard of that well or that, what they had going on there.
Oh man, not even undergrad or anything.
Just crazy.
Yeah. Yep. The old story that someone says is the workers, the hands that were switching pipe and doing all that stuff at the rig. They said you could hear the demons because they were drilling so deep they could hear the demons coming from hell. That's what an old myth of drilling the deepest well, I guess.
That's insane. Yeah, I can only imagine what you're encountering at depths like that.
All right, then Dan Pickering, that actually happened after we made the move and we started this transition to, the next level as the industry was kind of managing its way into what it became. And I moved to Arizona, but we came back for that live event. This is the day after the live event where we're all arguing and talking about rocks. Dan Pickering came in and, man, he has a phenomenal plan to potentially make a major win in the Permian Basin.
I mean, he's winning right now. He hedged at $50. So he's been making $50 a barrel since, that downturn, since the oil price war in January. So, I mean, like he said, you hedge, you look at your PDP, and then you're going to make your return on investment in the long run. And he is.
Yep.
Mad respect.
Yeah, definitely.
The dude knows what he's doing. And he's working with Henry Petroleum, which is a long-lasting company in West Texas and in the Midland area, and I mean that's pretty cool. Definitely someone obviously to keep an eye on and send a resume to and talk to, reach out to, say, hey, I'm here to help if you have anything, and that hungry guy will always get a fair shake for the opportunity, even over the guys that are just highly decorated with all the things you can have in school. If you're the guy that's calling, you're the guy emailing and just being humble and just saying, I just really want the opportunity. That goes a long ways, man. So that's a company to hang out with. Bruce Carr did the geophysics coming off the Midland Basin. Wow, man. He talked about just that increase in fold, just all that data that's coming back from that shoot is insane to think about.
Yeah, that really interests me because in undergrad, I had quite a bit of background in seismic, interpretation and processing and stuff like that. So that just blew my mind, It'd be interesting to see some of that data.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to talk him into letting PBE have a copy of it, get that segue.
Dude, no way.
Out of the budget.
Kind of COVID and everything getting I don't know. That's not going anywhere. But you bring up something interesting about seismic and processing, this idea of noise, and that when the signal is disrupted and you're not getting back an image, what's causing that? Is it geology causing the reflectors to not show up and we're not getting resolution there, or is it geology? And so where I'm going with that, and how does processing actually work? If you just give us a high level little idea of, how do you fix something that's sending back a very odd signal? But mud volcanism is this idea that you have energy coming from the deep, and it's an energy disruption. It has methane, it has fluids, it has oil and gas, it has a lot of energy in it. So when you see these plumes in the subsurface, are we over analyzing the thing and over processing potentially the real geology that's coming up? And my idea is an energy problem. As we shake and send energy into the subsurface, if there's energy coming back and going up, then that's how the signal is canceling out. It's muting the signal because there's an energy disruption in the thing. But talk to us a little bit about what you learned about processing.
So I just want to say I didn't learn a ton about processing. Most of what I did was interf, but I think, I definitely agree. I think there's a happy medium there to where you should let the geology talk to you and not over process things too much, because that's something that we talked about quite a bit in my seismic classes. You want to process things just enough. You don't want to mute the geology that you have there. So I think, I don't know a ton about it, but I think there's definitely a happy medium there that you need to look for.
Yeah, like when you're applying those filters to the seismic data, right? Because you're trying to improve that signal to noise ratio, right? In order to, it's the achieve deconvolution within the data. Because you'll see people at, these talks where they're talking about these new seismic processing techniques, blah, blah, blah. And they're using either machine learning or like these high level filters. And it's like everything looks super smooth, super crispy. And you're like, wow, that looks great. But like, how much did we lose from this? Like, how much of the geology did you take away? And it's not a knock on like processing, because it is the geologist's responsibility to be in the room talking about how that seismic data does get processed. But I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm going to keep talking. But yeah, what I'm trying to get at is just like that processing side, especially, and not a knock against geophysicists, but if they don't have a solid background in geology, then you can lose a lot of really good data that could make or break a play. Right.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And that comes back to the understanding, you don't want to be just a geophysicist. You don't want to be just a geochemist. You want to have a solid background in geology that you can apply to things like geophysics. So that if you have this type of structure, then if you're processing it too much and you're losing part of it, then it could be a key, piece of that data.
So for your thesis in your data set area, do you have seismic data over that whole thing?
No. It's kind of sad. Right now, I really don't have much. So one of the key things for me to get data is it's a core lab called OPIC in Norman, and I don't know who oversees it, maybe the OGS or something, but it's a giant core lab where you can go view core. And
is it OPK?
OPIC, OPIC.
No.
But that's where I've been looking through the database, trying to see if they have, core that I would be willing to look at for my area. So I'll eventually go look at core there whenever they open it up. And other than that, they have it closed right now because of COVID. And I don't have any well logs or anything yet. So I've just been reading theses and doing as much as I can in that avenue, just reading up on my topic.
Yeah, get as much background information as you can before you delve into the weeds. Yeah, and the other thing that I would suggest maybe is see what operators are in the area and see what they'd be willing to, lend you for your thesis, right? Be like, hey, I know you're definitely not doing any kind of high level, geoscience or any kind of research and development right now. Let me do that for you. Give me your data.
Wow.
Exactly. And that's been another thought as well, So I just need to reach out to some operators.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's just another way to get your foot in the door, right? Because as much as you want to that's another way to approach your thesis. As much as you want to just delve into the weeds and go into these really specific rabbit holes, you also have to remember that it's a sales pitch for yourself, right? So when you go to an operator, you're like, oh, I did a thesis on these really cool looking fossils. And I talked about the functional morphology of them. But if you don't understand how that can be applied to an oil company, then what was the point at the end of the day? Not to say it was worthless, but it's like, where do you see yourself and how can I structure my thesis in order to get to that place?
Man.
No, definitely.
That's really good. And in that ask, you got to have a comfortable way to explain to them that you're working on something that no one else has done. Right. For the first time, it's you collecting everything and it's you coming up with some ideas on how you could potentially make their acreage worth a lot more than they currently think it's worth. That's our goal as geoscientists. And so get that story in there, reach out to those operators. There's a lot of free sources out there that allow you to look at a map and you can look at it spatially, and you click on a wellbore and it says what company at least is the operator. Find those resources and bang, you just come up with a list of operators and get to the phone book, man, or Google.
Yeah. Definitely.
Let me talk to your exploration manager.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's another resource that I've been kind of looking at. We have the Oklahoma Corporation Commission has all the drilling reports and completion reports and spuds and whatnot that you can look at online. So
yeah, and recently too, that data is a lot better. I know some of that older stuff from the OCC is kind of, I mean, you got to do some data management on it before you can use it. But I mean, the data is there.
There's something there.
There's something there. I can't promise you what it is, but there's something there.
Nothing against Oklahoma, but dang, that oil and gas database is scruffy.
Yeah.
Shout out. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I kind of saw that firsthand working at Reagan Smith because we did a lot of regulatory and stuff like that. So it can be a mess.
Yeah. Shout out to my father-in-law, the driller. We did a show with him. That was fun. And then here's the rest of Urtech. Brian Bottoms, man, that guy's great. He's got some interesting ideas, man. Like, so supposedly there's this thing called the Buddha Gate, something like that. I saw it on LinkedIn from, I don't remember the Digital Wildcatters, and they said EOG is announcing that they might have this mysterious play that's like totally changing the game, and it's in the Buddha is this kind of story that's hitting, and Brian Bottoms is he's at Dietrich, and he's a smart dude. He's keeping up on all that stuff. So I would go to him and ask him what he thinks on all that stuff. Hanton, Christoph Stork, Dylan Danos. This is all Urtech, man. That was fun.
Yeah.
Hell of an experience. Steve Wilson from Apache. That was cool. I got a little weird talking about how we're, semi-civilized humans with baseball caps. We're just trying to figure shit out. We're barely out of the jungle, and now we're applying all these machines and, this amazing technology, and we don't even understand, the basics. But anyways, that was a little curveball for him. And then bang, that was the last real show we did in the studio in Midland, man. That's my wife Jocelyn, her dad, talking about drilling, dude. The amazing experience, and that you don't learn that. You can't sit down and read a book about what it takes to become a man like him that knows how to get the respect without even speaking yet from a crew that he's never met, and how to put a hole in the ground, and how to keep it stable, and how to organize all that stuff. That is earned, man. That's what I learned from that show.
Yeah, I loved that show. Just kind of the classic start from the bottom and make it to the top.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting, because as geologists, or at least I don't know a ton about what goes into the drilling side. So.
Right.
Yeah, and all the logistics behind it. That is, it is. It's
Exactly.
its own world within itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's really amazing to sitting down, and then when a problem does come up, having the ability to, figure it out, to get back to drilling as soon as possible, because every minute that rig is not drilling, you are losing a large amount of money.
Yeah.
That's
Definitely.
simple economics. Simple economics.
Simple.
Oh. This was Erdos Miller, man, the engineering drilling technology. This is our first show trying it all digital, and man, we started learning real quick that there is all kinds of other problems. When you leave a studio that, millions of dollars goes into this studio, and they rented us the equipment so it was manageable. Now it's our equipment, their equipment, everyone in different time zones. Like, that started opening up a can of worms on, how is this actually going to, be a thing? So we do all that, and I have all this SEG stuff that's just piled up. We talk with Pagel and Dr. Roche and Dr. Cena. I remember these, Skippo, the Three Musketeers, Chad and Olga. I mean, dude, SEG 2019, one of the best freaking memories that I have.
Oh yeah. It was, I mean, we were banging them out, like, I felt like every hour or so, but it was, the people we met and the amount I learned in that 3-day span was unreal.
Yep.
So were you guys just grabbing people as they walked by, or
we teamed
how'd
up
you
with
go about that?
Bang Bang,
Okay.
Icon Science. They obviously had
Huge shout out. Huge shout out.
Hey, they made us a shirt, man. They even put our logo on the sleeve.
That's legit.
At the end of the day, they stacked up a ton of talks, and we were going, wow, this is a full-time job. You know what I mean? But I mean, it was great. And in retrospect, and in all things considered, an unbelievable opportunity, a win-win for both companies. And they set up a lot of these shows. We did too. We had some back and forth on the emails and what we would talk about. And, there's a lot of setup in all this stuff. Not as you're experiencing, we just like called you and like, let's do a show there.
No, I figured.
Yeah, but to get into the weeds with each of these guys and understand that, what are they focusing on and what value are they, can we get out of them with the right questions? A lot of thought goes into that stuff, and I hope it came out that way, man. I mean, we had fun. There's definitely some interesting stuff in each one of those shows.
No, it was set up very well, and it's just so much structure to it, but still fun.
Yep. And man, just like that, we're basically done with SEG. We started releasing these shows. Susan Morris, Anglia Sweet. We did this product review with LAS Works. That was pretty interesting, as they were providing that software for free. So if you just happen to have a bunch of LAS files, like if you're working the Bakken in Wyoming, I guess LAS is like a standard. Like you have to submit an LAS file to the state, so you don't just get the raster like Railroad Commission. Actual LAS file. That's pretty cool. Now you got the ability to take digitized logs and that free software, and you could stack them all up. Look at them. They have a way to view the logs. I mean, it's a hell of a tool.
Yeah, definitely a time saver. Yeah, for a thesis too. If you're pulling a ton of logs from the OCC, and I mean, granted, you're probably gonna have to digitize some rasters, but I mean, yeah, having a way to organize them and view logs easily, that's going to be a huge plus. And yeah, standardize them. So whatever, software you use in order to interpret them, like that'll be big time.
Definitely. Yeah. I know from my experience, we did quite a bit of work in Wyoming, and they're just kind of, above everyone in terms of like regulatory and kind of the things that they do in that term.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting that you say that. Really interesting. So Neil Turlock and what the heck, Bitcoin, digital currency.
Oh my gosh, I had to listen to some of that stuff a few times. Bitcoin
I'm
just
still
blows
lost
my
on
mind.
it. I'm still lost on it, but
tell us something about Bitcoin, Dylan. What'd you get from that show?
I can't tell you much, man. Yeah. I wish I could. I have a bunch of friends that are into it,
Hey, I'll tell you
that mine it.
I'll tell you this. So we got involved in some mining opportunities and selling this stuff to investment groups, and one of the options was, do you accept digital currency for the opportunity? And that was kind of eye-opening to me. They're like, all right, so you have a copper plate you want to sell. Cool. Here's some paperwork, and bang, it was like 10 or 12 different types of currency too. And you could check if you wanted just Bitcoin or if you accept them all. And of course we're like, send them all. A little bit of each. I don't know.
That's awesome.
I'm open to the opportunity. Bell Geospace, that one was cool, man. Cole Murphy, wow, going through those imagery that Bell Geospace is putting together of the deep subsurface. So that was it for me. Learning more about the deep and how this integration between mantle geology and crust geology is connected, and there's a process there. That's exactly what that company is seeing. They got a huge database of that deep look of our planet that's right up, right below the crust. And so I was blown away on all kinds of stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that interesting stuff.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorite shows, just because how underutilized GravMag is as far as, a way to view the subsurface. And as a first look, I think it's the best way to go about it, even more so than seismic.
Yep.
Because you'll have a very good understanding of what structures you're going to be seeing. So when you do look at the seismic data, there isn't a question of what is this? All right, is this fault, truncating here, or is it still going? Or are we seeing lateral movement on it? Like looking at it a large scale GravMag and then zooming in with the seismic is definitely, in my opinion, the way, a data or an area needs to be interpreted.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I just want to throw in, one of the first GravMag images that I saw was of the Anadarko Basin, and it was just so detailed and so widespread. It blew my mind how much you could see in the data. So that was really cool.
Yeah. Spot on, man. So this is the last page of the rest of our podcast. We got the latest show with Dr. Scott Tinker, and we'll just wrap up the conception part of the show with Dylan. It's interesting how it's developed into what it is now, and we're thankful, without question, to still have the opportunity to keep talking about the things that we talk about, even through this digital platform. It still works, and these live shows. That's the one with Brian Scott about energy transformation, which we can get into the completion part of the show. Really interested in what you think on that, kind of where this is going in your perspective, Dylan. This plasma energy, man, that EOR technology, heating the reservoir, specifically the temperature increase when you're starting to produce this stuff, instead of just depressurizing and cooling and just letting the thing do its thing, you got to put some energy back into these systems. And that's some really, really interesting technology.
I just want to say that was one of my favorites, I think, as far as maybe over all of the podcasts. I just found it super interesting. And one thing that I'm working on a project right now for the Powder River, and one big thing up there is, basement hotspots control a lot of the production. So heat is good.
Mm-hmm. Is good. Great observation, Dylan. Great observation. The fourth rock type. Are you kidding me? We talked about a fourth rock type. We did that. Highly Inspired reached out through this platform called it's not Alignable. It's basically like a LinkedIn for podcasters, essentially. And I'm just like, why not? Just put in our information. Took the time. And they reached out. They're like, hey, this looks pretty interesting. We're just kind of average business folks, but, we haven't done anything with geology. We don't know much about it. And they asked me and Skips to get it. Have you heard this show?
Yeah, I really liked it. It gives you a great overview of kind of what you guys are trying to do. So I thought that was, great for the show.
Right on, man. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
WTGS, the first experience for me of a full virtual symposium after going almost 6 years of industry and ERTech and SEG, ACE, the WTGS Fall Symposium, where it's exactly where I cut my teeth. Yep. Did it all digital, man. It was interesting. They pulled it off for sure, but it's an interesting twist.
I don't know.
How was that?
Go ahead, Troy.
No, I didn't say anything. You guys were speaking over each other. What was the question?
Sorry, I was just asking how was that WTGS Fall Symposium?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it was cool, man. I mean, it was a lot of the like big ideas and service companies. So nothing really, major dropped out as far as anything besides a talk that came from the company, Drillco company, I think it was, or somebody like that. And he was talking about what it's taking, where they're going with their money and what it's going to take to get money back into the Permian and back into drilling and all that stuff. Yeah. So that was pretty important for me to hear.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was just curious because I attended the SEG and then the ACE, and it's those places are kind of very important to geologists, and just interesting to see how it's done on an online platform.
Yeah,
so I was just curious.
It's been interesting to see how they've been because once this first started going digital, right, everyone's trying to figure it out. What's the best way can we do these symposiums like totally virtual, right? Do we have people send in videos of them doing their presentation, or do we have them just do live presentations that we record, blah, blah, blah. It's been interesting to see how this has kind of progressed through the year.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. The biggest problem is for the service companies, I think, and for the people that are trying to make new connections, new relationships, new meetings and stuff like that. I can't imagine that that is really, really challenging. And they tried. I thought what I heard anyway in the interview that I did with the WTGS people, that you had the ability to say, hey, Dave Cannon, what's up, man? Long time no see. You want to catch up. And you had the opportunity to create a room if you wanted to, like custom rooms with people. and then bang, you're in this digital room at the event kind of that allowed you to kind of create those meetings and some, some synergy there. But I couldn't figure it out or I got the information wrong, which is, both of them are highly likely.
Well, that's definitely a good tool, at least to get you somewhere to where you can have that one-on-one conversation.
Yeah.
They did a big thing on the scoreboard. You can go to if you went to everyone's digital business card and linked up with them, if you sent a message, you got points for anything you did on the platform. And I talked all kinds of shit. Talking about how I was going to win this thing, and I'd be asking all these questions. Well, you only had 10 points you could possibly get for asking questions, that's just what I do. So I'm asking questions every talk. And then I maxed out my points, and everybody else just hundreds of points ahead of me. I'm like, how the hell are they doing this, man? So I kind of shit the bed on that.
That's a surprise. I feel like you were meant for that.
Yeah,
dude, you're like the LinkedIn machine.
Not the case. Paul Devine.
I definitely think the WTGS did a great job, going digital, but still that's one of my favorite conferences to go to, more so than, I'd hate to say it, than the bigger, national conferences. It's those small little ACE or not ACE, but Southwest Section and WTGS are probably two of my favorite conferences to go to.
Yeah.
Just because you get into the weeds, and I like that smaller environment too.
Yeah.
You're not overwhelmed with 30 talks you want to go to at the same time, and then an oral presentation that you want to go to.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yep, ERTEC, SEG, those very overwhelming. Yeah, the scheduling on those. So yeah, Paul Devine, Rudolph Uber. This is getting into the latest and greatest. We did the David Ramsden Wood fiasco. And then we did a quick live show.
Oh God.
Katie Fry, that was awesome, out of Oxy. She was good.
Yeah. I was bummed I missed that one. I just didn't have the reception on the road.
Yeah, that's right. You're up in Montana.
Yeah. Looking at rocks.
To end the conception part of the show, I would say this show right here with Tim Powell really opening up our minds and ideas to what money is actually moving right now. Very, very important. I don't care if you're a publicly trading company, a ma and pa, I don't care what it is. If you are a company and you have the ability to say, I'm getting more efficient with what I do, specifically into, my footprint of creating carbon, if you can do that, you have the ability to get some serious funding out of the ESG folks, man. That's a major money pot right now, and people need to focus on that, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was a great show. He reminds me, who does he look like? What's his name?
Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn, yeah. He kind of talks like him too.
Yeah, he's got this nonchalant demeanor to him. I was digging it.
Yeah, no, definitely very smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to stay connected to the Oil and Gas Council, man. I signed up immediately. I get their emails. They do panels and stuff. I mean, very interesting stuff and a lot of experience. And that guy helping to run that program, you can see why it's successful and why it's moving forward and having some value. So, well, man, I think we made it. We made it through all the shows, the old stuff, the new stuff, why I'm wearing this shirt. It's all been covered. We're locked up with whiskey. We're ready for the drill down section of this show. Dylan, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Skippo?
Let's dive into it.
All right, man. Well, obviously, it's been fun, man. This is definitely one of the more relaxed and fun shows that we've done, and getting your perspective eventually in the conception part of the show of kind of where you're at with your graduate degree, where you think things are going, how opportunities are looking for you. But before then, one of the things that's really interesting to kind of get a little more insight on and think about is, how was your internship recently? How was the vibe with the COVID experience and being digital, and what was the focus of the company? How were, what was going on with your experience in this internship?
So, my internship was actually at the end of my undergrad semester, or is during my undergrad last semester. So this past year with COVID, it was interesting because they really pushed for, us being in the office and working. But we did do a lot of working from home. We, collaborated through Teams and whatnot. And it's nice because with what we do, a lot of it can be done from home. There's some collaboration that you need to have between your coworkers, which is, great. That's where Teams comes in. So yeah, we utilized Teams, and it really worked out pretty well for the most part. We didn't have very many projects going on, as you can assume, but I was working on some interesting projects. So one of the things that I did at Reagan Smith was I conducted GPR surveys, ground penetrating radar surveys. So say you have some Indian land that you're wanting to drill a well on, and an elder comes forward and tells you that you have a potential burial ground there where they're wanting to drill this well. So I come in with my little GPR machine and scan the area and take it back and analyze the data. And most of the time, or some of the time, it would come back, with actual unmarked burials, which was really interesting to see.
Whoa,
and kind of be a part of, the history and finding those and delineating them, and then subsequently, them setting up some kind of area,
So what exactly is like GPR? Because I've never heard of it. So you said it's ground penetrating radar.
Yeah.
So yeah, like what exactly is that imaging?
It's using eddy current it sends down a current, electrical current. I think the one I was using is like a 400 megahertz antenna. So you have a scope of about 6 to 8 feet, I want to say 6 to 10 feet, maybe a little more. But it's high quality imaging, basically, high frequency.
Okay.
And you can see things that are very detailed. It's used a lot of time for construction sites to locate like rebar and certain structural things on construction sites. But recently it's been used to delineate graves.
Whoa.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah. Does it come back with the shape? You're looking at like, well, there's like a boxed shape here, like
Yeah, so you get back what's called an anomaly, and it's just an anomaly in the data. It's kind of like it is a hyperbola in the data, and that kind of marks. You can see your width, and you can create a 3D image. It's you get a 2D outlay instantly. The data is showed to you instantly. There's no processing to it. You can take it back and process it, however much you want in the software that you can buy from the company. But the data is there instantly as soon as you scan it. It's like a little lawnmower. You basically just walk with it and scan the ground.
That's awesome. What do you use to image it? So like you're collecting this data, but what software do you guys use to image it?
So it's called a GSSI Radan 7 or something like that. But it's just a software that the company offers. GSSI stands for like geophysical systems, something I can't remember. But it's it's a software they offer, and you can manipulate the data, do certain things with it, and clean it up, stuff like that.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. So were you able to find places where you could drill? Has that ended up what happening? They're like, all right, we just got to move the rig 15 feet over and we're good to go.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the instances was for, I think, a pond they wanted to build for, for fracking. So they just moved it.
Yep. Interesting. So the what's the name? What is it?
Reagan Smith Energy Solutions.
Reagan Smith Energy Solutions. It's a consulting firm, or is that what?
Yeah, it's a consulting firm. So they specialize in like federal leased lands and stuff like that. So a big part of what they do are APDs, applications for permit to drill, and then all archaeological consulting, environmental consulting, wildlife consulting. They do all the wildlife surveys, regulatory stuff.
All up in Oklahoma?
Where we work, we've done projects in Wyoming,
Nice.
New Mexico. Went and
Nice.
stayed in Hobbs for about a week for some stakings. That was interesting.
How'd you like Hobbs?
But yeah. I mean,
No, don't need to
not
answer that.
there-
Don't need
not
to.
much
That,
there,
that,
yeah.
that was, I threw you under the bus on that one. Don't answer that one.
Try the casino.
Did I try the casino?
Yeah.
Or you telling me? No, I
Oh,
did not.
well, it's an experience in itself for sure. Not just for the slot machines.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it seemed like a very interesting place. I will say that.
Oh yeah, no question about it. The history there is just there's a lot there. There's a lot there. It's no,
Good save, Troy.
really,
Good save.
really interesting, experience that you were able to do that and dealing with the reservation lands.
Yeah.
That's something that is large. These are large areas in places that have a lot of good resources under the ground. So, what an interesting development over many years between the reservation and private industry of America trying to come together. I mean, that's really interesting. You referenced one guy as the elder. Is that kind of, you said the elder?
What tribe was this with?
The Cheyenne Arapaho is
Okay.
who we did most of our work for.
Okay.
And the elders, they're a group of older people. They've been around, they've heard all the legends, they've heard all the stories, so they have a general idea for the history that's gone on. So they're a good outlet that the tribe always reaches out to.
Wow.
I was gonna say, and I know that each tribe, even if you're going through the BIA, each tribe kind of has their own subset of rules. Because like if you're working on Osage land or you're working on Pawnee land, like it's just gonna, there's gonna be little regulatory things that are gonna differ from place to place, and just a whole bunch. Well, depending on where you're working, a bunch of rabbit holes that you got to like go down or hurdles you got to jump over.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, yeah. So that was very interesting. And another aspect that I worked pretty heavily on was there's a company that came to us and they wanted to do a large amount of APDs up in Wyoming, Powder River Basin.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really fun because we were just cranking these suckers out for the state and for fed APDs. So I did a lot of work on we built drilling programs for the APD purposes. So that was really interesting, kind of a little bit of geology aspect. I got to see all the formations and how that drilling programming side kind of worked out. And
That's cool.
you're talking like pressures, cement, all that, casing,
Yeah.
back build.
Oh man, yeah, that's good stuff, dude. That's drilling engineering 101 right there.
So yeah, that was really fun to me because I had never really been a part of that aspect, the drilling aspect. So
Right.
I learned a lot. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something good that I have under my belt, I guess.
Dude, that's the kind of stuff that, you're a geologist, you understand the rocks, you understand this thing called geologic time and this, really big ideas and how it has an impact of the reservoir or what we're trying to do as geoscientists, what we're trying to do as an operator. But on the backside of that, you've developed these abilities to kind of really understand where to go when it comes to dealing with the reservation or dealing with some drilling, some basic stuff. I mean, that's good, man. It's good quality stuff. Take note of that. Remind people of that when you speak to them, when you're getting these new jobs or these opportunities. It's those kinds of things that just click and they go, you know what? This guy's got it. He's got the experience. it's a little bit more, let's hire this guy.
Yeah, not only is he a geologist, but he has a fundamental understanding of the business, right? From a high level perspective. And that is worth its weight in gold. Trust me.
Yep, that's speaking from experience. Skippo was hired as integration manager, and he came in. He's like, I'm a geologist. What do I need to integrate?
Man, that's what you got to do.
And he did. That's right. He's like, you know what? Fucking hey, I'm here, man. What do you guys need? And then he turned into a landman. But dude, experience and his ability to read a legal document now is on a level that I never got to fucking experience. I was on the other side of all this stuff and dealing with all the data and being drowned in a lot of time-consuming stuff. He was reading the legal documents that is the black and white, the paper that says, here's the deal we're making, and don't fuck this up. Because if you do, it's going to cost everybody money and it's going to cause problems. Skip can read that language now. I mean, that's worth its weight in gold, like you said.
Yeah, that's valuable.
Yeah, understanding the pitfalls of a certain operation, right? Like when you're working on BIA land, like, hey, these are the things you need to keep in mind as far as like when we're doing right-of-ways, or these are the things you need to keep in mind as far as royalties are concerned, because there's all these little things that can make or break that are we going to make, is this going to make a profit, or are we going to lose it? And it could be just that one little line of subscript that you just missed that could just screw the whole operation over.
Or the one little line that you can add that saves it, right?
Oh yeah.
Allows you mobility. These contracts need to be built for agility, not escape. That's the biggest problem in today's business and the reality of where we are. If you really look at how the agreements are and how development of joint ventures has become, it's all about escape, man. It's not about the product you're creating. It's not about the joint venture of your values and my values coming together and you're reliable and you're going to bring fucking 110% to this project and so am I. It's about what's my escape. If something goes wrong and COVID hits, what's my escape? And that's completely ass backwards. That's and that I think that has a lot to say of a lot of things going on right now.
Yeah. Definitely.
Preach.
And yeah, let's hear it. We also had a leasing department at Reagan Smith. So shout out to you, because that stuff, it just scares me. There's just so much there that you got to pay attention to. And
yeah,
that's right.
It's intense. It really is.
Dude.
Yeah, there were some long nights. I'm not gonna lie.
All he wanted to do was talk about rocks. All he wanted to do was get to know the rocks better. And unfortunately, that's not how it developed, perfectly for him. But that extra little work and getting his degree at the same time, he was getting fed. A lot of that curiosity was being fed on the geology side, and he had a job to do at the end of the day for, a full-time job. And he did it, man. And he swam in as a tadpole and he hopped out as a motherfucking bullfrog. That's right. That's the facts. I'll go to town on that. I don't know.
Oh man.
All right.
Appreciate it, T-Roy.
Anything else on your internship, man? What else did you experience? What would you want to get more of? And then you had the opportunity to sit down and get interviewed for the Concho opportunity, but it sounds like that didn't go through.
Yeah. So just a little, one more thing about the Reagan Smith thing. I said we also did wildlife stuff. So that was real interesting. One of the key projects that we worked on was this one-man show kind of oil and gas wildcatter guy down in Texas. He wanted to drill a well right in the middle of the Sam Houston National Forest. So we had to go down there and do red cockaded woodpecker surveys. Man, it sucked. You gotta transect, you gotta watch, or you gotta walk, and you have your GPS. So you're following your transect, and you gotta walk straight through this 8-foot high blackberry bush, straight through it. You can't go around it.
Oh man.
But it's just interesting to see how everything that goes into drilling a well that you don't originally think of as a geologist, going into it.
Yep. You can't.
Yeah, you tell them, hey, here's where I want to drill, and then you ship it off to the other departments, and they have to figure out how are we going to make this happen.
You got to traverse
Exactly.
blackberry bush. Oh man.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Dylan's out there just like getting eaten alive by these blackberry bushes.
Cussing up and down. Yeah.
Dude, that's an interesting experience, I bet, for sure, man. That's no joke. I got to stake claims for the first time, and dude, and everybody tells me they got an intense hike. I got you an intense hike, man. Go on a line, of every 600 feet and stake these things. And you're carrying all that equipment, by the way, and getting these stakes in the ground. That is intense hiking. And it doesn't matter where that ends up. This GPS is done on a Google Earth or whatever else. They don't know that point, is right on a cliff or whatever it is. And you got to mess around with that stuff, and you get rules, you get up to 16 feet or whatever to get it in the right place. And you got all these rules and regulations, man. And yeah, what you're experiencing is extrapolated in all industries. So it's good, man. You're a geoscientist, and you have a focus and you have a vision on the fact that you are a geoscientist. You are not a petrologist, let's leave geologists out of it, but petrophysicist, geophysicist. You're not a specific person. You don't want to be that. You want to be a well-rounded geoscientist, and that's going to allow you to have the ability to switch industries if you need to. If things go really bad, that's fine. You take your thesis, take what is you learn from that thesis, your experiences in these internships, and then when you're applying for that mining industry job or whatever the other job is, you take those specifics they're looking for, and you share with them that you have those experiences. You've dealt with that before. You're ready to do it again.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously that's important now more than ever, it seems like. And now I'm in school doing what I always wanted to do. I'm, doing the IBA project, doing these prospect evaluations, looking at the oil and gas data that I've always wanted to look at. So it's just kind of coming full circle for me.
You're competing in the IBA this year?
Yeah. So, next year, 2021.
Nice.
But this semester, it was really cool because we had an IBA class. So it's a prospect evaluation class, and we did a full IBA project this semester. We presented it a couple weeks ago. There you go. Yeah.
There it is.
Hard work. Cheers to hard work, because it's going to take a lot of work.
Exactly. Yeah, it did take a lot of work. I had a really good team this semester, but it was super fun, getting to see everything that goes into it and creating this final project with all of our input and what we thought would be, a good place to drill.
What basin were you guys practicing on?
The Cooper Basin in Australia.
All right.
Huh.
What is that?
Formation.
Is that southeast Australia or just South Australia?
South Australia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Skippo, yours was northern Australia, wasn't it?
No, it was West New Zealand. It was the Taranaki.
Oh, that's right. Australia was involved in the global tectonics stuff.
Yeah.
Taranaki.
Yeah, I mean that's where we had all of our analogs, right? Because that's where all the co-development happened. But yeah, dude, that Australian geology is a trip, man. It's an absolute trip, especially the way they look at basins. Because unlike other places where like we say the Permian, right? They break down their basins from a stratotectonic perspective. So it could be, so they'll call it like the GAB, so the Great Artesian Basin, but within it there are 6 or 7 different basins that are all broken down and like, hey, this is a later Paleozoic basin where things were deposited, and they'll call it one thing, and they'll call, the upper Paleozoic section something totally different, and they'll call the Mesozoic section something totally different, because all these events were broken down, or the accommodation was created through different times. So yeah, it's a trip. It's a trip how they break it down there, but it's some really good geology.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. We had 3 or 4 basins stacked on one. So you have like the Warburton Basin, which is like the basement sediments, and the Cooper, which is where we were looking at Cretaceous, and I can't remember what other ages. And then you had the Eromanga, and then like the Lake Erie Basin. So there's like 4 basins stacked on one, stacked on each other.
Wow.
I should say.
Well, that's kind of like the Permian Basin. They can adopt that because you have Ellenberger.
You can go for it. You'd be like the Tobosa Basin would be one. and then you would break it into like an upper Permian section called the Permian Basin. And then like when you come into, and then, Marathon of Ouachita, and then like all the Cretaceous stuff, you could call something totally different.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like when you're talking like Edwards Trinity and like all of that.
Dude.
But
stratotectonic work is the revolutionary stuff that we're talking about for geoscientists, for sure.
Yeah.
It's tying tectonics to stratigraphy using timelines, age dates, and good structural interpretations through geologic time. No question about it. That's been stated long before I just said it by some famous geologist, which I don't know his name, but he said the next thing is tying tectonics to stratigraphy. We got this big stratigraphic model that we really overuse. Now we're going to tie in structure. And that's where we're at today. That's really where we're at today. It's fascinating. And Skippo's thesis really touched on this. And you said it in the beginning kind of, and we'll switch to the conception part of the show right after this. But what I wanted to bring up is you have this overprint of structural complexity before the basins form. And if you don't know that structure, then the structure of the base that's in the basin will not make sense because it's feeling the deeper structures. So, and Skippo, you did that, really, really nicely, obviously in your thesis. That's why speak so highly of it. Through time, you're mapping how the convergent vectors were changing, and that now it makes sense on why it's wrenching the way it was based on something that happened way before the reservoir was there. It's fascinating way to tie it all together.
Yeah, very important, I think.
Yeah, when you're tying in pathways of migration, right, that is the crucial element to understand where you have areas of tension and where you have areas of, extension, right? Because that's where the oil is going to want to go, that path of least resistance. And if you don't understand how it's changing through time, right, from those basement sediments to the Cooper Basin to those upper layers, then like you're going to miss that target. You're going to get a lot of water.
Exactly.
or gas. Depending on how you're looking at it.
Both are uneconomic.
Both not a good look right now. But that's awesome, man. So you're gonna be that's cool that you guys had like a pre-IBA course. So you guys are all geared up and ready to go. So day one, you guys are pulling data, organizing data, and then just like going to town, I'm assuming, on like the background geology. And then what was your specific role, or what is going to be your specific role? We'll talk to you after IBA. After you guys win IBA, we'll do a post show. We'll do a post show. And we'll go into the weeds about it.
Well, we're officially going into the completion part. Skips, I've every time. We're going
the
into
history.
Yeah,
Dylan knows it. Completion is here. It's amongst us, and we're talking about Dylan. With Dylan Morton, you're talking about you're competing in the IBA, something Skippo has direct experience in, and I was an advisor for, and all I did was just find industry people that really knew what they were doing and help the team, and it was exciting, man. It was so much fun to just kind of see what happened to this team, and that's you got to know that this is a team effort, man, and communication with your team is such a real experience because everybody has a slightly different perspective. Everybody has a slightly different touchy subject and the way that they want to be approached and they communicate. There's a lot there, and you're going to learn a ton on that. Well, you already did kind of in your semester, but like Skips was saying, what's your role going to be 2021 OSU's IBA competition?
So, this semester I worked on mainly the petroleum system aspect. So I did all the petromod stuff. I did some work in Petrel, just getting an idea of what our formations were looking like. But I mostly did all the petromod stuff and the petroleum system modeling, which is really cool because I never worked with petromod. It's a really cool, software. So one of the main things I talked about was how, and this ties back to, deeper structure, but in the basin, basement radiogenic heat affected the thermal maturity of our area, which is pretty common. and we were on our concession area was on the slope of a trough. So we saw pretty low thermal maturities due to that and this part of the trough not having as much crustal radiogenic heat production.
And
so that was real.
Not to cut you off, but the Cooper Basin, that's part of a failed rift system. Am I right? Or
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. So continue on.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
So it's there's a bunch of troughs and ridges around it, forming due to compression. And so that's one thing I mentioned and talked about. And it was just interesting to see, because the Patch of War it's an interesting formation. It's self-sourcing, interbedded sandstones, coals, and shales.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing a lot. The main source is obviously the coals. It has thick coal seams, and
source for the gas.
Yes, it's a gas play. So these coals, they can generate hydrocarbons at pretty low thermal maturities. So that was one thing I mentioned, and so I created the burial history model, vitronite reflectance models, and the petroleum systems elements chart, and kind of just tie that all together with the outlook of the basin.
Give me your take on what do you think it is that wins the IBA?
So I think, it's an overall view of how you bring it together, which we had a pretty good grasp on. All of our aspects that we talked about complementing each other's, and we had one goal, and that's the main thing. I feel like,
I'm gonna counter that. The main thing. So you got your sub main thing, which is what you said. It's about showing that you have a team.
Sub main thing.
The sub main thing is that you
not to be confused with the main thing. Important, but it's still the sub main thing.
To make a clear distinction between the main thing.
Oh God. Sorry, keep going, Troy. You're on a roll.
Help me out here, Skippo. All right. Sub main thing is the fact that you have a team and that you guys were able to communicate enough for the presentation to make sense, that you are complimenting the first person, or the first person sets it up, the second person compliments the first person, sets up the third person compliments the second, sets up the fourth. That's logical. It's how you give a presentation, a group presentation. That's the sub thing. The main thing is that you are convincing someone that there is the potential for a lot of resources. So it's all about getting them to understand that it could be there. And that's the fascinating part about the IBA, is that you get to really experience the epitome of a geologist and geoscience. It is about convincing someone that it could be there. And if you have that all compiled and you have this huge structure that says that could be this resource, and everyone in the room goes, you know what? I think it could be. That's what wins the IBA, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of where I was going. You want everything to make sense, and you want it to be sound, and you want to show them that it's worth doing. So if you don't have the reserves, if your reserve estimates aren't up to par, then obviously you're not going to go through the trouble and money to drill it. So we made sure that we had a lot of reserves in place and had everything figured out sound, the seal integrities, trap integrity, stuff like that. So
nice. Skippo's was a big incised valley thing that was huge. This structure was huge, and you're like, I'm gonna drill it. I'm like, yeah, I would definitely put up money to drill that thing.
Yeah, I know our volumetrics were, but aside from that, it was solid. It was just the lack of data that we had over the thing, so we had to do some, kind of like back of the envelope estimations that we were like, that's why it's our beta prospect, but it looks good. But yeah, I definitely think you have, just to kind of tie it all together, those are definitely the two fundamental things, right? Is like you guys have a cohesive presentation that tells a story. And the end of that story is there's a lot of effing oil here or a lot of effing gas here that you're going to be making money on. But tying all that data in together and like where you guys see certain things being important to present at certain times, right? Like, are you going to be talking about the seismic data first? Are you going to be talking about the geochem first? Are you going to be talking about the stratigraphy first? How are you going to set up that geologic background in order to, when you start evaluating those prospects, they're already know everything they need to know as far as the geology is concerned, but you're just hammering home like these home run points. Like that's where I felt like, that's the difference between like, oh, that was a good presentation and here's my money, take it. We're going to drill
Exactly.
That was
Sell
awesome.
it.
That's awesome. That's right. You set up the nail, you hit it hard, and then the second person comes up, hits it even harder, and then even harder, and then at the end of the day, you're just driving the hammer through the wall.
Yeah. Yeah. So when they're talking about, so by the time you get to the risk stuff, they're like, I don't like, it looks so good already. Like this is just like validating like my thoughts.
I'm so excited for OSU,
Exactly.
man. I'm so excited for the IBA and you competing in it, man. I think if PBE could have one like prediction for 2021 is to somehow be there when all this happens for the IBA competition and bang, we get to see the announcement. I was sitting there for these guys and I thought they won, man. When they didn't get third and they didn't get second, and I didn't get to watch the presentation, but I knew what they were presenting and I knew how they won the Southwest section, and I'm like, man, this is it, man. They're gonna fucking do it. And unfortunately, another school was called. They didn't even get podium at the end of the day, and that there's a lot there that explains how that happens or what happens there. But I think we could be there, man. I don't know how, but digitally somehow PBE has got to be there. I want to see you win this thing, man. Do you believe? Do you believe? Grab the mic and understand you speak and you believe. You believe.
By the mic, we mean your computer. Yeah, pull up your computer to your.
No, I fully believe. I'd love that if you guys could be there. It's definitely going to be online, so
right.
I don't know how all of it's going to work, but I'd love for you guys to be there somehow, some way.
Dude, there's got to be a way to make a show about it, right? It's the IBA competition, the AAPG, PBE podcast. Make a show, make a spectacle of it, and interview the teams, and it's just you can make something out of that for sure.
Yeah, we'll finagle this one. We'll figure something out.
I love it. I love the idea. Let's do it.
Right on, right on. All right, completion part of the show is coming to an end with Dylan Morton. I feel like we're going to do this definitely again after the IBA, after you get a job in industry.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
Anytime.
So as a graduate student and being involved in OSU, which is this is a very legit geoscience school in the world. It's not just America. OSU and Dr. Grammer and what's her name? The chair of the department.
Camellia?
Yes.
Knapp?
Yes, Mrs. Knapp. Knapp. Bang. You got this program that is very, very interesting. If you read the thesis, if you read the theses and you pay attention to what's happening at OSU, man, that's very, very exciting. It's very legit school. So what's the feel? Where are the professors talking about? Where are you guys being really honed in on how you're going to make an impact in the professional world and the transition from grad school to what you're going to do? How is that going, man? What are you hearing?
So one of the main things that I think the school has kind of transitioned into is carbon sequestration. A lot of the oil and gas teachers are not switching, I would say, but it's a big subject. Obviously, everyone's looking at it. So they've been doing a ton of research. Students have been doing research, theses, posters. So that's something that I'm even interested in. And then, we're kind of leaning towards, I think we're gaining a few new masters, our online master's degrees in geophysics. And I think one is like, can't remember what the other one is. I think it's more engineering related somehow to geology, and then they're also pushing environmental a little harder. So
Yeah.
But I would say the main thing overall is the carbon sequestration has been a big topic at the school.
Dude, that's a really, really interesting one, man. And pay attention to it. There's a lot going on, and there's certainly a lot from my perspective, which I won't get into the detail, the gory details on my take of the carbon sequestration. But when you put CO2 into the ground, they call it snap off. The engineers are calling it snap off. I don't think, from a geologic perspective, I think there's a chemical reaction happening, and it's not simply CO2 going into the reservoir and then getting trapped in the pore space, which is scraping out the oil and recovering more hydrocarbon. There's a chemical reaction happening in the rock and in the reservoir at temperature and at depth and all that stuff. So the carbon sequestration needs to be seriously looked at as an EOR technology that I think has a ton of potential to really help operators make a lot more money than they spend, decrease LOE, decrease the carbon footprint. I like the way you're going with that. What else are you thinking now personally for a thesis?
So I would honestly like to do something with carbon sequestration, but from right now I'm looking at really looking at a stratigraphic framework of the Cottage Grove sandstone in the Anadarko Basin. So that's what I'm focusing on right now. I'm just trying to see what it develops into.
Yeah.
Well, this is
I was going to say well, first and foremost, I like how the department is beginning to diversify. I think that is something that's a necessity, right? You can't only be an oil and gas program. You can't only be an environmental program, blah, blah, blah. It needs to be, a combination of academic and then the different industries, right? But yeah, that's a really interesting thought, because like carbon sequestration, at the end of the day, you're looking for void space within the subsurface, and that transfers everywhere, right? How can you identify void space, whether it's through seismic, understanding the stratigraphic framework, and then now it's like, all right, now that we've identified the void space, do we pump carbon into it, or do we pull oil out of it, or do we pump carbon to pull oil out of it? I don't know.
There you go.
There's a lot of different rabbit holes to go down, but yeah, I think that's a very, very smart approach to, your thesis, potential thesis.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing I was looking at, if I was doing, because originally I was looking at maybe studying a shale, so I was wanting to do some geochem analysis.
Oh, dude!
I took a geochem class this semester, and I loved everything that I learned. It was just new things that I had never heard. Organic geochem, I just loved it. So.
Easy on the organic term, but however, strongly emphasize the geochemistry, man. I'm telling you, that is a tool that you can use to leverage into all industries. The geochemistry, that's it, man. I love that idea that you have. I love that idea. Carbon sequestration is a big one. There's a lot of excitement around that, but really understanding and knowing your geochemistry, that's a really, really strong geologic tool, man.
Yeah, and that's what I've been seeing as well. We actually had a class the other day, and I shouted out Magma Chem. So
let's go.
I shouted out some of you guys' research, and the teacher was like, never heard of this. I'll probably include it next time I teach this class. So you'll have to apologize to those students. And I was like, well,
I make no apology. I bring up interesting things because I hear these things and I want to talk about them because I think they have value. That's it.
Exactly.
Dude, that's awesome, man. All right, we have come to the end of the show with Dylan Morton. This is it, man. We're 2 hours into this thing. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm a fan. I am rooting for you, man. I am doing everything that it's possible to make your transition from academia to the professional world a success. And, sir, you have 3 strong semesters in front of you. It's very important what you learn in those semesters technically.
Yeah.
for that transition to be as successful as possible. So I hope we stay in contact.
Yeah.
I really do. I enjoyed this, man.
Yeah, same, man. I'm a big fan of you guys. I hope you know that, and I'm glad we can make this happen. It's been super fun.
Skippo, you got it completion?
Dude, it's been great, man. Hey, and if it takes a little longer than 3 semesters, don't feel bad about it. I took 4 from from your points. So I took 2.5 years to get my thesis done. But yeah, I mean, you got an awesome journey ahead of you, and just keep an open mind, man. Always question. That's all I'm going to say.